What's up, guys? It's Ken. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things here. I might as well talk about some technology, assistive technology, comparing old to new, I guess. I know I've had two Braille notes in the past. The Braille Note Empower and the Braille Note Apex. The Empower, I don't know how much storage it had, but the Apex, it had close to 8. I never had any of the hymns note takers, but from what I heard, the Braille Sense U2, which was the most recent Windows-based note taker, as of right now, it's 13 years old. And the Braille Note Apex is 16 years old. Right now, the oldest it could possibly be. Then I know APH had their take on a note taker twice. Once in 2007 with the Linux-based Braille Plus, which had a 40 gigabyte hard drive, and I believe 256 megabytes of flash storage. I don't know about the RAM, but it ran Linux. The web browser, by today's standards, is terrible. Of course, it only got updates until about 2010 or 2011. It only got like 3 or 4 years of updates, which is pretty sad. Then in 2013, they had another note taker, the Braille Plus 18. Which apparently had 32 gigabytes of storage in an 18-cell Pro display. It ran Android 2.3, and you couldn't, there was no Play Store, so you had to download apps from other places if you wanted to get apps. And of course, talking about today's technology for the blind, I remember about almost 10 years ago wanting the Braille Note Touch. That thing was so much better than the Apex at the time. You jumped to at least 16 gigabytes of storage. You had a camera on the back. You could scan things. You could do a whole lot more than what even the Apex would offer. The Braille Note Touch Plus did not have the same menu layout. The Touch, like the original Touch, had the same menu layout. They didn't keep it the same. In the Touch Plus, the Contacts app was first. And another thing is that the Touch Plus, which is the current Braille Note that they have, and they've had it for 6 years, it runs Android 8. 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of storage. That amount of RAM is at least good enough to upgrade it to at least Android 13 or 14, but they decided to be idiots and decided, well, nope, we're not going to upgrade the Android version. We don't need to. We never have. We don't need to. What kind of a... I mean, you got to think about security in this scenario. YouTube barely works on Android 8. The Chrome works on Android 8. It's the oldest version of Android to support it. Android 7 got dropped a couple years ago. My RCA Voyager tablet no longer supports Chrome. All the Play Store apps are mainly gone. Nothing is really supported on Android 7 anymore except for Apple Music. That goes all the way back to Android 5 as far as support goes, which is insane. Not that I'm going to listen to Apple Music anymore. I don't know. Meanwhile, on the other hand, hymns or Selvas BLV, their Braille Sense Polaris, I believe had 64 gigabytes of storage. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this. 3 gigabytes of RAM. It came out in 2017, and at least it had a better Android version, Android 5. That thing could have at least been upgraded to Android 8. But no, they didn't upgrade it to Android 8. I mean, it could have been. I mean, I'm just thinking based on specs. I don't really know. The Braille Sense 6, at least hymns was, at least Selvas BLV was smart enough to upgrade it to Android 12. And I'm starting to get tired. This is what happens when I do videos late at night. Anyway, that is 128 gigabytes of storage. The thing is, I never tried a hymns product before. I kind of want to. And I don't think the Braille Motion is going to replace the Braille Sense 6 because it's not as powerful. With that thing, they at least have Android 12 on it, so that confirms Android 12 can run off of 4 gigabytes of RAM. I know when I had my A53,
it's 12:30.
That's guaranteed to get support until Android 16. So that tells you something right there. 6 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. That should theoretically make it upgradable to Android 15 or 16. Let's hope hymns or Selvas BLV. I mean, I'm just hoping that the Braille Sense 6 gets another Android upgrade. If not, well, they have their reasons. As far as, oh my gosh, as far as Windows-based note takers, besides that project I was thinking about, which there's literally nothing coming of it yet. Nothing's coming of it, no. But there's, I know there's a B-book note taker with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage running Windows 11. And then there's the Inside One Plus, which is another Windows-based note taker with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. You can go all the way up to about 2 terabytes or something like that, from what I am reading. Well, from what I read. Both have 32 cell braille displays. One has the way that you would do it on the Braille Note Touch Plus. One is just all physical. One claims to say that it is running Windows 10, while the other claims to say that it is running Windows 11. There really isn't you really have to find the page for the Inside One Plus. Essentially what they are is just like my idea, where you have Windows in a program that has all the note-taking capabilities, like it would open up like an editor or a web browser of choice, or like even some apps. But I think the Easy Suite and the Home launcher, or whatever it is, the Home program on the Inside One Plus, they both have, I would assume they have their specific apps programmed into it. My idea would be to kind of mix it with apps or whatever. I don't know. And if it ever comes out, there's the Optimo that could be coming out. That would be a really neat concept if that were to ever materialize. Although that is going to be a 40 cell display with Windows built into it, obviously. And it's going to have the same speech as the Orbit Speak Plus and the upcoming Orbit Player. And that's another thing I want to talk about. As far as I can go back, I don't think I've ever had any experience with any Victor Reader stream at all. I don't think I ever did. And if I did, it was probably a long time ago. I don't know if I've ever had my hands on one. I kind of would like to get my hands on one. It is as of right now, it is the cheapest book and media player out there right now. But it offers the least amount of features. You get what you pay for. It doesn't have any kind of app catalog or anything like that. It's Linux. The brilliant BI40X runs the same software. Well, runs the same embedded Linux OS that the Victor Stream 3 runs. And then there's the, well, I mean, I talked about the Victor Stream and the this Inspire before, briefly on a video, a couple videos, but the Inspire is $650. Kind of a bit expensive for a media player that only has, 25 apps for installing and 64 gigabytes of storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM and Android 11. Android 11. What kind of a deal is that? Hims with Selvas BLV? What is your problem? There was another product that they had, the Blaze ET, or Blaze EZ, whatever it is. The Blaze ET, that was also Android based. The Orbit player is going to be Android based, 16 or so gigabytes of storage, I don't know the RAM. It's possible that it will have Android 12, so it will be one step ahead of Selvas BLV in that department. As far as the price, they say it's going to be $300. It's supposed to launch this July. So, as the time of this recording, or this video, I'd say about 2 months or less. So originally it was an India media player for the blind, and for the blind people that are in India, it was for them first, and then Orbit Research, I guess, decided to bring it to the US and other countries. I guess they wanted to test the waters. I kind of figured they would do that first anyway. As with all the other ones, though, the Orbit player has the same software, if not similar software, to the Orbit Speak and its Plus counterpart. Well, the Orbit Speak Plus. Man, I really want to get the Orbit Speak Plus. Just thinking about a very small note taker with media playback functionality in a case and all that. I could just imagine a little tiny small note taker. I mean, it's not like, of course, it's not palm sized, of course, but 6.7 inches, 2.9 inches by 0.6. Man, that would be very, very small. Very, very small. An even smaller note taker would be the BT Speak, which runs Linux, and I doubt that Pleasure Technologies would make a book player or media player based on Linux. I mean, come on, Blazing Technologies. And I wonder what they would call it, BT player. They're already doing a BT Braille, $3,500 pocket computer with a Braille display of 20 cells. Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's 3,500, but from what someone at Blazing Technology said, it would be around that price or more. I wouldn't know. It's on the Access On podcast, which, speaking of podcasts, I know that the Orbit Speak Plus is supposed to be getting a podcasts app in the future in online services. If anything, the online services would be a part of the book reader application, which would explain why the book player is not going to, or the book reader is not going to be on the basic Orbit Speak. Although, why have 30 gigabytes and 32 gigabytes of RAM and storage, respectively, on both models? Why couldn't they just distinguish them by at least adding a couple, like at least 6 gigabytes of RAM? I don't know, that's just me. Just, why couldn't they do that? But it does make sense. They can literally make it to where you can put Android 12 on a device that is so low powered. I mean, that's just mind-boggling, but I mean, it's kind of, but then again, the processor is powerful enough to handle it, so what am I to complain about? Unless I'm glad it has internal storage like the upcoming Orbit player. If it has Android 12, I'm probably not gonna be surprised. And if it's probably got, Android 12, 16 gigabytes. Oh geez, I found an Android MP3 player, it's not like blindness related, but someone said they were able to get talkback on the thing with ADB debugging. The player had 16 gigabytes of internal memory, and it had 30 gigabytes of RAM, which tells you something
It's 12:45.
that Android 13 can run on an MP3 player that's got very little storage. But the catch to that is that there's an SD card with that MP3 player that you can literally that you can run Android 13 on so little RAM and storage. Now the or the Hi-Bi M200 or whatever, that's got Android 13 and it's got 32 gigabytes and 30 gigabytes of RAM, I think, and it's very unpowerful. I mean, it's not It's not very powerful at all, I would assume. That thing's like $199, $200, and it's running at what, 13? Come on. That's like iPod level. That's like saying you can run iOS 18 on 3 gigabytes of RAM and 16 or 32 gigabytes of storage. I mean, you can. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's possible you can run iOS. I mean, iPadOS 18 can run on something that has 3 gigabytes of RAM, a A10 Fusion chip, and 16 or 32 gigabytes of storage, which is kind of amazing because I don't think it's that useful. 2 or 3. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I kind of don't know if I'm going to upload this, but well, yes I will. See you guys in the next one.